Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, the number of people recently rescued from abuse at Islamic educational institutions in Nigeria tops 1,500 as another rehabilitation centre is raided and 259 captives freed. We hear from our correspondent in the country. Also, as Burkina Faso struggles with another jihadist attack, France launches a new joint military operation to try and tackle that insecurity. The risks have hit the economy hard too, with the number of tourists falling off dramatically. And in Sierra Leone, traumatised soldiers are being signed up to a yoga program to help them heal. Many still bear the psychological and physical scars from the civil war of the 90s and have turned to the meditative practice to help them move on. But first, in Nigeria, 259 people, mostly men and teen boys, have been freed from an Islamic rehabilitation centre where they were being held captive. Many of the group found in the southwestern city of Ibadan on Monday were emaciated. Victims say that they were barely fed, even though their family members were charged huge amounts for their room and board.
Since they brought me here, my parents came back to get me out of here, but they told my parents to pay $2,700, and since then, they haven't come back for me.
We eat 1 meal a day. If you see what you eat, bro, even though if you give your dog at home, your dog can't eat it. That's what we manage here. When you come here, for the first 3 days, I couldn't eat anything. But as time goes on, as the hunger met me, I couldn't do anything than to just do what they're doing here.
Well, it's the latest in a string of abusive religious institutions to have been raided since authorities launched a crackdown on them in September. Altogether, about 1,500 people have been rescued since then. Islamic schools, known as al-Majiris, are common throughout northern Nigeria, but this latest facility was in the southwest. Samuel Okoye tells us more about why so many mistreated people are suddenly being found in places meant to help them.
It's quite widespread from what we have seen in the last couple of weeks. Before now, we assume it's something that is confined to northern Nigeria, but the arrest or the rescue of these people has proven that it goes beyond the northern part of the country and extends to the southern part of the country. Like this recent one, it was a case in southwestern Nigeria. Last week also we had a case in southwestern Nigeria, which that case was even peculiar because it was in a Christian institution. So it shows that it's gone beyond what many people assume it used to be. It goes beyond religion. It has cut across the country. And I think also security agents are trying to please the government because the government, the president of recent said security agents should go all out and track down all these institutions.
So looking at the kind of treatment that the young men and girls are being put through, why would parents send their children to places like this?
Well, it's a problem of poverty. I mean, poverty has been growing in Nigeria over the years. And as you know, when there's poverty, the first casualty of this is the family unit. Families are growing larger, yet income is reducing. So when this happens, there's hardly any care for the children. And ultimately, some of them end up in drugs, taking hard drugs, and it become a problem for the family. Some also could take into crime, could become stubborn. These institutions have presented themselves as the solution for this kind of problem. And they are tied to religion, using religion to solve problems that are by themselves social and ultimately medical in nature. Because people believe so strongly in the power of religion, they take their people there hoping that some miracle will happen, but ultimately no miracle happens, and these institutions end up being used as scams, where the parents will be taxed so much from time to time. They are asked to bring money, and they continue to pay money, and they are being given hope that the children will be reformed. So it's some kind of scam. The younger ones, for example, are being sent out, are being used to beg for money. Yet the parents are paying for these children to stay there. So those who run these institutions are making double, collecting money from the parents, and at the same time sending these children out to go and beg for money.
Sam Olukoya there for us in Nigeria. Now, Mali is observing 3 days of mourning after a devastating extremist attack in which at least 49 people were killed, 49 soldiers. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita's called for support of the army in the wake of last Friday's assault on a military base in Indelimani in the northeast. Islamic State militants claimed responsibility. Now, there are growing concerns that the forces in the country are struggling to contain an Islamist insurgency. Meanwhile, across the border, at least 5 gendarmes and 5 civilians have been killed in a jihadist attack on a base in northern Burkina Faso near the Malian border. Security sources say that gunmen opened fire on an outpost early on Monday. Now, the country's struggled with a spike in extremist violence, and France has recently launched a new joint military operation with Burkina Faso to try and tackle that growing insecurity. The risks, though, have already hit the economy hard, with tourism suffering particularly. Take a look.
The city of Bobo Dioulasso was once a hotspot for tourism in Burkina Faso, known for its mosque, animated street life, and iconic train station. Located in the west of the country, the city was a top destination for culture and architecture, and also benefited from its location on the route from Mali to the Ivory Coast. But recently, concerns over security have led to a sharp drop in the number of visitors.
Before, during the holiday periods, you would see hundreds of tourists here every day, but now we go 1 week or 2 weeks before seeing a tourist.
Jihadist attacks in the north and east of the country have caused over 600 deaths since 2015. Though Bobo Dioulasso itself has not been targeted, the western region has seen several attacks, and an Italian-Canadian couple who disappeared in December of last year while travelling are still unaccounted for. Many Western embassies now advise against visiting large parts of the country, including Bobo Dioulasso. And those who rely on tourism for generating income are forced to find new ways to make money.
All I do is make my fabrics. I don't really have other work, but as there are no tourists, I have no choice but to help out with masonry work to earn cash for food and medicine for me and my kids.
Many in the hospitality industry have also been struggling, like this hotel owner.
We have lost everything, to be honest. The number one priority is the staff's salaries, then the taxes. We can't even afford the taxes.
And so today, Bobo Dioulasso is a city in limbo, with inhabitants tentatively trying new business ventures as they anxiously await peace and a return to business as usual.
Well, in Sierra Leone, traumatised soldiers there are being signed up to a yoga program to help them heal. Many bear the physical and psychological scars from the civil war of the 1990s and are turning to the meditative practice to help them move on from the difficulties they've lived through. Take a look.
Creates problem for yourself. At the end of the day, you keep on blaming people. Why do you do that?
This yoga teacher is addressing 100 Sierra Leonean soldiers. A few years ago, he showed the army a US military study that said yoga could help with depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. The army decided to recruit him. The Ebola epidemic in 2014 killed nearly 4,000 people in the country, and before that, Sierra Leone was racked by civil war between 1991 and 2002, a conflict that killed some 50,000 people.
For my 12 years,
I joined the rebels when I was 12. Some boys killed their mothers and fathers before they even reached that age. I fought and killed innocent people. I'm still traumatized, but I'm now able to control it thanks to yoga. It has transformed me.
The yoga teacher tells the soldiers to focus only on the present moment during the training. It helps them clear their heads and relieve the stress. The army said the yoga program was working.
With the continuous teaching of yoga and the practice, they come up to say, sir, this yoga is very good. It makes us forget about what we've been seeing, what we've been doing.
The teachers would now like to offer their program to emergency responders and hospital workers who have had traumatic experiences.
And finally, the Springboks are still whipping up the crowds. Thousands of ecstatic fans turned out to the airport near Johannesburg on Tuesday as the South African team returned fresh from claiming victory at the Rugby World Cup in Japan. The win of the 4-yearly tournament was a particularly special one, as it was made with a relatively racially balanced team headed by Sia Kolisi, its first ever black captain. So well done, the Springboks, from everyone here at France 24. That is, though, all we have time for on Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again if you can. Take care.